And my thingy is broken. I don't know why. Welcome, everyone, to episode 345 of Dial the Gate, the Stargate Oral History Project. My name is David Reed. I really appreciate you joining me here for this episode because I have a terrific actor on the phone with me here. On the phone? That's so old. Stephen, I'm showing my age. Welcome to
Aren't we
Dial the
all?
Gate.
Aren't we
Right.
all?
It is such a pleasure to have you, sir. How are you doing?
I'm better than most, not as good as some, you
Yeah,
know? I'm living my best life, Dave.
there you
I'm
go.
living my best life. And
And staying busy.
say what
And
again?
staying busy. You've been in
And
some really
staying
good
busy.
television.
That's a blessing.
It is. Absolutely, it is.
Yeah,
Ha-
I'm
I-
probably one of the oldest still working actors in the business in Hollywood, you know? And again, it's an absolute joy. I can still memorize lines, so I'm good to go.
do you ever plan on stopping?
No, actors don't ever quit. We
Jack
don't ever.
Nicholson would disagree, but
Yeah,
I'm
like
glad to hear it.
we go until literally until immobility
Yeah,
sets in, or we start to get to the point where we can't memorize lines.
yeah,
You know, that's when the hiring will certainly become limited.
right.
You know, who wants to hire an immobile actor or an actor who can't remember his lines? So.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's we go and go, especially guys like me or actors like me, because I've got nothing else going on. This is it. This is it, Other actors have businesses or families or,
Yeah.
a whole bunch of other stuff. They have like a regular life. Acting is practically my whole existence. Without that, I'd just be laying around drinking.
Is there, what is your earliest memory of wanting to do this? How far does this dream go back? Is it one of your earliest childhood dreams to do this, or did this come to you later in life?
Here's the thing. There is no such moment. I never, quote unquote, can you see me making quotes? I never, quote unquote, wanted to do this. This is a God-given, or whoever you believe your maker is.
Yeah.
This was dropped in my lap.
Tell me more.
Now, early on, probably around the age of 13, I realized I could sound like Johnny Mathis. I realized I had a good singing voice, all right, a good voice, and I sounded like Johnny Mathis, and he was one of my favorites, and so I had a lot of fun, just
Yeah.
as they say, in the shower, in the bathtub, in the blah blah blah, singing, and I had little dreams. My little fantasy was to be a singer,
Okay.
but I never wanted to be an actor. Um, so that was my little fantasy. I'm one of those rare people, I don't know if it's rare or not, to realize that they never really wanted to be anything. Like doctor, lawyer, electrician, veterinarian, whatever. I didn't have dreams or aspirations to be anything. I've always just lived, you know. I've just lived. And some people live life, some people let life live them or let life happen to them. And some go out and try to grab life,
Yeah.
by the balls, so to
Yeah.
speak, live life.
Yeah.
Um, Again, I've just been one of those who let life happen to me, and it's worked out. It's worked out, you know. So you'll ask the right question and I'll answer it. At some point you'll learn how I got into this. It started with modeling in Chicago, late modeling. I didn't start modeling until I was around 27 years old. That's real late.
What brought that
Uh,
on? I'm curious how that
well, I
how that
worked
happened.
in, I don't know how many people have watched the interviews with me, but I worked in retail at the time. I'm trying to fasten
Okay.
this up.
Okay.
Um, I worked in retail at the time, clothing. I sold ladies' clothing. It was one of my jobs, one of my last jobs before I got into acting full time. So I was always, dressed neat. I worked at one of the premier boutiques in Chicago on Michigan Avenue.
Yep. Know it well.
Yeah, well, yeah. Then it's like the equivalent of what, of Rodeo Drive, like
Very not.
the
Yeah.
shopping.
Exactly.
Um, and a lot of my client, I sold ladies apparel. I worked in a ladies shoe shop slash, apparel. And a lot of my clients were models, because during those days too, the models would make their rounds with their portfolio
Sure.
to go see the photographers, the studios, et cetera, et cetera. And a lot of them were female ad agency executives, and they were hot. And this is what, the 60s, 70s? This is the
Yeah.
70s. I got out of the Army in 68. So this is the 70s. It's a very, very alive time. We talk about the 60s and shit, that was alive too, but the,
Yeah.
the 70s were really the years, sexual freedom
Free
and drugs,
love. Yep. Yep.
free love, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So all these hot women were my clients. Long story short, too late. Uh,
All I'm thinking
and
is, I'm so sorry for you
here's the
that the hot
deal.
women were your clients.
Yeah, I actually said this, and remember when we used to put out biographies
Yeah.
with our headshot?
Yeah.
You know, in mine, it actually said I got into the business to get laid. It I actually put that in my biography. And it's
Honesty.
true.
Check.
Honestly, it's true. It's true. It's like all these hot women, these models, these beautiful ad agency execs, and I'm, in suit and tie every day and at my charming best, etc. And I thought, wow. From the models, I thought maybe if I got into this modeling thing, I could, get into that circle, that little social circle and quote unquote get laid. And my best buddy at the time was a photographer at Playboy magazine. As a matter of fact, he was one of the first African Americans on staff as a staffer at Playboy magazine in Chicago. So we shot a portfolio, shot a bunch of pictures. I put together a portfolio and in my spare time would model while I was working at this retail store. And I started to make a living at it. And it was like so
Wow.
cool. And at some
Wow.
point, I remember at one point a guy came in, looked at me and said, "Oh my God, you look like, a character in my play." It was the Deerfield Players down in Deerfield, Illinois. I remember that. It was a play called Slow Dance on the Killing Ground. And the actor, and that's a three-character, 3-hour play. One of the actors had fallen out, the male actor. He had fallen. That guy said, "You just look so much. Do you act?" And I went, "Yeah, sure." Had never acted a day in my life. Oh yeah, I had done one play in school.
Yeah.
Uh,
So you'd had a
and I
taste
said,
of
yeah.
it.
And I step in and I do this play with 2 weeks of rehearsal. Again, a three-character, 3-hour play that was truncated to about 2.5 hours, 2 hours, 15 minutes, but still with 2 weeks of rehearsal. I did this play. It was a wonderful experience, and I got good reviews. And that's when I learned, let me get this centered again. But dad damn it.
Yeah,
There I
it's
am.
not mirrored. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And I learned that I could act.
Yeah.
Simple as that. I learned that I had chops.
So you're 27?
I'm yeah, I'm around 30-ish
Oh,
around
around
then.
30s. Okay.
This was like 19, what was it, 70, I don't know, 2 or something. I don't know. I'd have to look it up in some
Okay.
paperwork. Um,
Wow.
but that was, my first experience in Chicago. And Chicago is a wonderful theater town.
Yes, it is.
I mean, you've got some wonderful people that have come out of there,
Yep.
Malkovich and,
Sinise.
Sinisi
Yep,
and
that's right.
Mantegna, and, all that shit. Me,
Yeah.
Cusack, John
Cusack,
Cusack,
that's right.
Lonnie Smith, Meshack Taylor. Um, just a wonderful theater town. Um, uh, and that was my experience. I started acting. I started getting roles in plays in Chicago, and it kept snowballing and snowballing. And then Cooley High came to Chicago. I got a role in that. And then Blues Brothers came to
Right.
Chicago, and I got a role in that. And that's what brought me to Hollywood. I mean, and by this time, I am now making a living as a actor slash model, you know. And I remember now the years because 82 was when I moved to LA. I was going from 80. What was it that took me there in 80? something took me there in 80, got a job, was going back and forth, met Stephen J. Cannell, and worked in a few of his shows, and Blues Brothers brought me back to LA. We shot it mostly in Chicago. We had one scene left for me to do. And they said, we're not going to get it in Chicago. We'll fly you out to LA. And it was a night scene. Um, and I was hired for 2 weeks on Blues Brothers. It turned into about a 3-month gig. They brought me to LA, put me up at the Sheraton Universal, you know, and every day they would come get me at sunset, figuring we're going to get the shot because it's a night shot. The sun would rise. We didn't get the shot. They say, okay, Steve, you're wrapped. You can back up to the hotel. This went on for 3 months, man. Good pay, good per diem, great living quarters.
Yeah, but
I'm meeting people in
but
Hollywood.
no Portillo's, Steve.
Huh?
No Portillo's.
No
Portillo's.
Portillo's?
The hot dogs.
Hot
The
dogs.
Chicago hot dogs. Oh, come on,
Oh,
Portillo's.
Chicago hot dog.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, it was a great time. It was my introduction to Hollywood.
Wow.
And I did that back and forth from 1980 to 82. In 82, I just moved here
Wow.
and started working. Now let's talk about it. And again, dropped in my lap. Dropped in my lap and
What was?
snowball. You fucking with me now, aren't you?
No, I'm just trying to come up.
I can see your lips moving, but I couldn't hear it.
Yeah, that's David's face of trying to articulate himself. With a lot of actors, it's feast or famine. Were there ever any periods of famine, or was it every time you turned around there was just something else to walk into? Because that's actually the story that led you to 21 Jump Street, where something dropped and then all of a sudden the door opened up. And I'm sure we're going to get to that in a moment here. But was that the case for you, or were there periods of famine as an actor for you specifically?
Again, I am probably one of the most blessed
Yeah.
actors on the planet, and I'm angry. I'm mad that I'm not Denzel or Brad Pitt. I'm really mad about that. But at the same time, I never did anything but act and model from the moment I started. From the moment I started acting and modeling, that was it. I always had a job. There was never that famine period
Okay. Wow.
for me. I never worked as a, waiter or blah, blah, blah,
Yeah.
on the side while I was trying to get a job. I started, either I was getting modeling work or acting work. And no, never that, I had a period later on, and much later on in life, after Jump Street, after X-Files, after, Supernatural, where I didn't work for a while. I went through my period, my period of the socially unacceptable stuff, the drugs, the alcohol, the blah, blah, blah. I've gone through that, but I kept the shit quiet. You didn't read about it, or I didn't have a good publicist.
Count your blessings, right?
At one point, that whole thing has made a lot of people rich and famous
Yeah,
too.
that's true.
The whole
Or
idea
infamous.
that they were
Yeah.
a drug addict, they were an alcoholic, they
Yeah.
were this and that. They did have, it's made them, that story has made them rich and famous, But mine was kept very, very quiet. I did my shit at home.
Yeah.
Wasn't out in the streets, wasn't out in public. I didn't have paparazzi following me, or, I wasn't important enough for them to pay that kind of attention to.
Well-
I didn't get scrutinized that way. So I had that period. But coming up, it was feast practically all the way. Straight feast. Just, wasn't a humongous feast, but for me, it was feast for a small town, for an actor from Chicago with, no background. I mean, I've never had an acting lesson in my life. Didn't go to Juilliard, blah, blah, blah. It's just, again, blessing, thank God. I'm what I guess you would call a natural.
Do you mind if I ask you a personal question?
this is what these interviews are all about.
Oh, absolutely.
They don't get
What's
interesting
your blood
until it
type
gets
then?
personal.
No,
What?
what's did you find was your descent into substance abuse a result of finding yourself in a void as an actor, or was it related to other things in your life? I'm just curious if that was what was the impetus for it.
It was related to the. If I want to answer that off the top
Yeah.
without getting too deep, because I've
Yeah.
never been asked that question before.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But the immediate answer would be it was the pleasure I
Okay.
got out of it.
Okay.
You know, that feeling from alcohol, that
Yeah.
feeling from the drug, and all that was involved with it.
Yeah.
You know, drugs were, it was a very sexual thing too.
Yeah.
There was a certain, when they tell you about your libido rises with
Mm-hmm.
certain drugs, your inhibitions
Mm-hmm.
go away with certain drugs. So it was about that
Okay. So it wasn't so
initially.
much an escape initially.
No, it
It was more
wasn't any
sensory.
depression. I wasn't in a slump.
Okay.
I threw myself into a slump with, the
Yeah.
act of doing that, but I wasn't in a slump. I wasn't depressed. I wasn't angry. There was nothing negative happening in my life at that time that would have driven me to the usage of those substances. It was just a pleasure derived from it, you know. Great deal of them were, sexual kicks, man. And, you had people around you that enjoyed the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So you get into it.
And you're in
Uh,
an industry where there are some very
Staying
beautiful
in it.
people.
Say what?
You're in an industry where there are some very beautiful women,
Yeah,
and you can get
absolutely.
pretty much anything you want if you know the right people.
And if you keep asking,
That's true too.
you
Yeah.
keep asking. You walk into a room and there's 100 people in there and you need $1. You ask each one of them for $1. Odds are you will get your dollar before you leave that room.
Oh yeah.
And that's kind of how it was back then. Keep throwing shit against the wall, something is bound to stick. I stayed too long at the fair.
So
That would be that
what?
would be, sort of the end of that sort of, I'm caught up.
So
I stayed too long at the fair. I got caught up in it. Now I'm a little bit trapped.
what was your wake up call then? What turned the
It
carnival
just
lights
got to be
off?
a hassle. It got
The
to be a
hassle.
hassle. I realized too that I have vanity,
Yeah.
a little vanity and a little ego.
Yeah.
And you can only look at yourself in the mirror so many times and watch yourself deteriorating um, before you come to your senses, so to speak. I mean, I'm that vain. I have that much of an ego. Like, you don't look good, pal. You look like shit.
Yeah, but you're an
Okay?
actor.
And you're on camera. Your
That's
job
right.
is to be on camera.
This
That's
is
your
your
gig.
brand
This is
and
my
your
brand. And
voice. Your
right now
voice
you are
especially
fucking
is
it
your
all up.
brand.
No, yeah. And right
Yeah.
now you are messing it up. And then you
Yeah.
get into there's some financial stuff that's involved. Your mortgage is $5,700 a month,
Yeah.
and you don't have a job.
Yeah.
Your job's not coming quick enough. Um, so yeah, stuff like that. And you wake up, you know. Uh, and a lot of it has to do with how you want to be looked at and your social life. I mean, again, women were looking at me the same way, you know. Um, you make public appearances and you look a certain way. You have to work really hard at looking decent to go out. You find things start to get a little bit more difficult. Uh, there are a lot of factors, a lot of wake up factors,
So, Stephen, can
and
I?
wanting to stay, taking pride in, because for a
Yeah.
long time I thought I looked younger than I am. I don't think most people would guess me at 80.
No.
Um, so
Can I share something very personal with you?
what?
About 2 months ago, my last living uncle shot himself.
Say again?
About 2 months ago, my last living uncle shot himself.
Oh, wow.
And he lived in Villa Park. And his oldest daughter, who's lived on the streets all of her life, she's in her 60s, overdosed and killed herself last week. So I've had quite the summer. And to hear your story, where you were able to pull yourself up by your bootstraps and out of this because you realized that you had no choice if you were going to go in a new direction to find your true north, it is no trivial thing, sir. I mean, many people don't pull themselves out of it. So the fact that you did is just all the more testament to you and your constitution as a man. So I appreciate you sharing that with me.
All right. And you just lost half your fucking audience, man. We just did a downer segment like you wouldn't believe.
Well, I mean, it's these are
but thank you for that,
the
man. It's just
stones
like,
that we step across to lead us on the path that we're on. And it's not a straight line, and it's not a rainbow road. It's there are some periods that are tough.
Life. It's regular.
Yeah.
It's regular.
Yeah.
You know, there's this image thing that I think a lot of actors they have, whether they want to or not. There's this image thing, and it's a matter of what kind of image you want to create, and do you want to create a false image, as opposed to, living a life, a real life. There's no sense to me. There's no sense in being alive if it's a lie. If everything you do is unreal and a lie and made up and pretending. I mean, we are all pretending in a sense any damn way, because I'm sure most of us would rather be doing something else. Like nothing works real good for me if I could do nothing,
But
still make a living.
as an actor, you are saying someone else's words. So I mean, I have actor friends who are like, yeah, I lie for a living, but also at the same time, aren't you as a performer in your process trying to find a kernel of truth in what it is that you're saying? At least a kernel of it?
One thing I say
Yeah.
when a lot of people said to me, well, actors must be good liars, because y'all are pretending and blah, blah, blah. And that's the farthest thing from the truth for me, and I think for most actors, is what we're doing is trying to find the truth in someone else's words. That's what we really do. It's not telling a lie. It's not trying to fool anybody. It's telling someone's story and finding the truth in that story. I like to ask writers too, if I can find them, if they're in the room, if they're anywhere nearby, what were they thinking when they wrote those words that I'm getting ready to say? What was your thought process? Where was your head? What space were you in when you wrote these words? And if they can give me that, if they can accurately articulate that in a manner that I understand, I have a much better chance of giving it back to them and to the audience the way they perceived it when they wrote it. So what was the damn question?
Finding truth. Finding
the hell
truth.
Did you ask me?
Finding truth in a performance.
Find the truth in the performance, yeah. That's what we do. And there's a part of ourselves, that there's a lot of ourselves that we throw into it. If we've had anywhere near the experience that we're talking about, it helps the process. Helps the progress quite a bit.
Did you ever think you did?
Gotta relate. I've always said if I can relate to those words, and mostly I know immediately. Most actors know immediately when they read whether their whole being is relating to what they're reading.
Yeah.
And if I can relate to it, I've got a head start on bringing that truth to the forefront.
Did you ever think that you would move to Vancouver? Cold, rainy, great shot
Did
at
I
some.
have to what?
Did you ever think that you'd be moving to Vancouver? Did you ever think that
Oh,
you'd spend a
I lived
chapter of
in
your life there?
Vancouver. Literally, I lived in Vancouver for probably a total of about 10 years
Yeah,
because we did Jump Street there.
yeah.
And that was a 5-year run. All right. So I literally lived in Vancouver, literally 9 months out of the year.
Let me back up. Let me back
But
up.
you know, back in,
Was Jump
yeah,
Street the reason you moved up to Vancouver?
yeah, that was the reason I was in Vancouver.
Okay.
It was 21 Jump Street. That was the reason everybody was up there. Stargate, Jump Street. What
MacGyver?
else was there? Stephen Cannell had a Men the Hat. The
MacGyver?
Hat. The one about the music with Ken Wall.
Yeah. MacGyver?
What was that? What?
MacGyver. MacGyver.
Yeah, MacGyver was there. We were all there for, for the work. It was Hollywood North. It
Yeah.
became Hollywood North. That's where we shot everything.
Captain
Um,
Fuller. I'm sitting here
yeah.
across from Captain Fuller, and I watched an interview you did where you talked about your time with that cast and crew, 21 Jump Street, and you said, this is a mutual friend of ours, by the way, you said Peter DeLuise is the most talented man in this cast. Do you still stand by that?
Oh, absolutely. In my opinion, he was by far the most talented, the most experienced. And I've said it. He comes from a entertainment, a Hollywood and entertainment family. Um, and you can see by his consequentially his work after he left Jump Street, and he's a fine actor, fine actor. I mean, you get caught up in a lot of these B shows or
Right.
popular shows, and you realize there's some good acting going on. The show itself doesn't get the accolades of an award-winning show the way we look at shows. But he's a fine actor, turned out to be one hell of a director, a damn good writer, and a producer. I mean, he did the whole kit and caboodle on Stargate.
Sure did.
He moved over to Stargate after Jump Street as an actor, producer, writer, director. He covers the whole spectrum, you know, he's a quadruple whole bunch of threats. When they talk about that triple threat thing.
Do you
Peter
have
is
do you
very,
have
very talented.
do you have
And,
any?
and a good looking man.
Yes, he
You
is.
should see this boy when he lost weight. He
Yeah.
was on the heavier side, but when he lost weight, he was literally chiseled.
He looks
I
good
think,
now.
in fact, to me, he was handsomer than Johnny. He was, or at least as handsome as Johnny at his prime. We had 1 year, I remember one season where he really looked great as, the male species. Um, and I don't know if people got that, looking at him. Because everybody was so hung up on Johnny and Greco. Johnny and Richie Grieco they were the glamour boys back then, which I think Johnny hated, by the way. I think he hated the fact that that's the way he was looked at.
Johnny Depp. Yeah.
Oh yeah, because he's a damn pretty good damn actor himself. All these kids came into their own.
What was it like working with Peter day to day? I can only imagine
On a day-to-day
with that
basis.
energy and that creative mind. You never know what he's going to say next. He says something. He's like, where did that come from?
They
Oh,
were number one. They were. I think the age difference too. People don't realize. I think Johnny was something like 26, and Peter was like 19 or 20 or something.
he was a kid.
They were pretty much Holly, Peter, Dustin were pretty much kids. Dustin was a little old. I think he's just a little bit younger than Johnny. I really don't know the order, but I think Johnny was the oldest, and then Dustin, and then Peter and Holly. Um, and at least two of them were teenagers when we started. Um, but working with them on a day-to-day basis, yeah, you remember now, look at what the roles were. I would normally come in. I normally worked no more than 3 days out of the week, 4 days out of the week, short days, because I'd come in, do my Captain Fuller thing, give them instructions, and they would go and carry out the story, the way the show was structured. So even though I'm in the same episode, we're all in the same episode every episode. We're not necessarily working directly together. Um, Working with him was like with any other actor on the planet. It's never been any different to me, for me, working with anybody, from De Niro to the lowest, not the lowest, but the scene enhancement personnel, what we used to call extras back then. I
I
call
like
them scene
that.
enhancement personnel. But from De Niro to a scene enhancement personnel, they're all the same to me. We're all there doing the same damn job. Nobody's that damn special.
There are no
The
small
specialness
parts.
comes from working off of each other
Yeah.
and the words itself. So working with him on a daily basis was just like when I had scenes with him, I had scenes with him. But generally on set, he and Johnny were fun. They were practical jokers. And like you, like I said, he comes from a family that reaches for comedy too. You know, Peter comes from the when it all fails, drop your pants school. You know, come here, everything else fails, you pull your pants down. You're bound to get a laugh with that. Uh,
Oh, jeez.
so you combine all of that with all the rest of his talents, and like you said, he was spontaneous, you
That's
know,
right.
young, living life. So it was, in a word, it was fun. I never had an unpleasant day working with any of those people. It was always fun because I was also doing the same thing. In my mind, this was a fantasy. This was a dream come true, a dream that I never had. Actually, because like I said, it was dropped in my lap. But it was a fun job. You look up and you find yourself doing something that's a lot of fucking fun, and you're getting paid for it, you know, and paid and more. I mean, we were quote unquote stars,
Yeah.
you know, we were stars.
You
We
were
owned that city, so to speak,
you
especially from the male point of view, you know.
you were very much the father figure of that team, like Don S. Davis was as General Hammond of SG-1, and you were in 3 episodes of SG-1.
Two, I think. Was it three?
It was 3, but one of them was in a video monitor. Yes.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's what
Yeah, it was just
because I know, and you know that Peter wrote
he did. He wrote the
all
last.
all three of those episodes.
The
He
the
wrote it.
first one was written by Michael Cassett. All 3 were directed by Peter. Yes.
Yeah, Peter directed me in all of them.
Absolutely. Can you tell us anything about your experience on Stargate? Can you tell us anything about General Vidrine? This character may not have been around very often, but I loved this character. I come from an Army family as well. I just have an innate respect for authority. You know, General Vidrine comes in the room, you stand up a little taller. You know, there was an authority and a demand for seniority and respect that you projected out from that character, as you have with many of these types of roles.
Yeah, they can no, yes and no, because they come like on a different plane. I'm normally the bad guy with that kind of authority. So you're absolutely correct. This military, legitimate, legal, moral guy with the same strengths as the immoral, illegal, criminal mind is it was a nice balancing. I liked playing that, you know. I liked walking in the room and what the atmosphere was supposed to be theatrically was respect as opposed to fear. You know, the bad guy walks in, everybody's scared to death, so they straighten up. The good guy walks in and everybody respects that power and that knowledge and you know, they give it. So yeah, so playing him was quite interesting. You know, it's always interesting to play bad guys or power figures, you know, or bad guys with power, or power figures with power. It's just cool to be the badass in the room.
Certainly the badass. That's
You know,
certainly the
it is.
case.
It's cool to be the badass in the room. So, uh, and it was nice to watch Peter work. Peter's the kind of guy too, as an actor, and like I said, very talented. A lot of directors only know how to direct traffic. They know their camera shit, They know how to move you, how to make it look interesting. But to be able to communicate with an actor and get a feeling, tell an actor, to be able to make an actor understand what emotion you want back from him. Peter knew how to do that. As an actor, he knew how to talk to an actor, to tell an actor, this is how I want you to perform this to get X reaction from the audience. Because I think directors have in mind, when I directed, I found out, for me anyway, that directors have in mind what response they want to elicit from the audience. Like they'll know from this scene, I want the audience to laugh. From this scene, I want the audience to cry. From this scene, I want the audience to be angry. You know, you're always looking for a certain response when you do a scene. I think for directors and actors, that's what they want. You know, we come to a project, we must be in the same book, on the same page, telling the same story. But we each add our own little thing. Like my story may be in bold type, the director's story may be in parentheses, the writer's story could be in question marks, but we still headed for the same answer. You know, we still want to get to the same destination. And we all add our little shit to make that journey interesting along the way. You know, we make the scenery interesting along the way, so to speak. You know,
You're
we're seeing
playing
trees and rivers and mountains and stuff instead of a flat roadway.
you're playing an Air Force general, three-star lieutenant general the first time we saw him, and the next time we saw him, he was a four-star general. Was any of your, or have any of your military roles been informed in any way by your own personal experience in the Army? Or have they been very separate experiences?
My experience in the Army in real life,
Yeah.
I found out there's so much that happened that I found out afterwards that I knew what I knew going in. By the time I got out, would have been a different journey.
Okay.
Um, Mine was it was very wild because I expected to go there. I was drafted in '66 at the height of Vietnam. My entire company went to Vietnam. I was not so much politically motivated as scared to death. I had made up in my mind I was not going to Vietnam. I did not know whether I was going to go to jail or run away to Canada, but I wasn't going to Vietnam. I have no argument with those people. I'll never understand that war. So that was my mindset going in. And as it turned out, like I said, my entire company went to Vietnam, but me and four other guys went to Germany.
It's just how it happens.
With outdated MOSs. All this I learned. MOS is your job description. And we were code specialists, communication specialists, code specialists, teletype specialists. This was just before the onset of our computer world now. So we were given jobs that were even going to be obsolete. You know, nobody practices Morse code in the Army. And we were sent to Germany. Try to shorten this story again. When I got out, I found out the reason why. We were all only sons. And the United States Army, government, military does not send only sons to war zones. And that's why we were not sent to Vietnam.
Wow.
So my experience in the Army relative to General Vidrine, I think we were talking about.
Yeah.
Because General Vidrine would have been a guy who was a lifer. You know, that was his career, his life.
He was a pilot. He would have flown.
Yeah, and I remember too, when it came time to muster out and re-up, to the enlistment sergeant, when it was my turn and one other soldier with me, when it was our turn to go in and sit and have the talk, we walked in. We said we were going to walk in together. We walked in together and sat down. And the enlistment guy just looked at us and we all started laughing because we knew damn well the two of us were so happy to get the fuck out of the Army.
We've
We
done
were
our
not
best.
going to re-up, okay? But you got to remember that a general like that gets reached his level, he is re-upped time and time and time and time
It's
again.
his life.
So it
Yeah.
made it his life, yeah, made it his life. So you can imagine what I brought to him as a character compared to who I was as a soldier. I think that was the original
Yes,
person. Sort
they're
of comparing my military experience with, matter of fact, I was so loud and gregarious and out of hand. They made me go to an infantry company. At one point, I was assigned to what we call headquarters company, right? And my job, I worked directly with the colonel, his personnel carrier, me, two other guys, the driver slash teletype operator, gunner, weapon slash teletype operator slash Morse code specialist, me. We were the three guys who set up, anytime we went to the field, or if we were to go to war, we would have been the center of communication.
yeah.
It's the colonel's personnel carrier. From there is where he would have given all his orders and fought his portion of the war. That was my job in Germany.
Were you
And we
at
would get up
Ramstein?
there.
Where were you stationed?
We were stationed in and this was funny too, because for a long time we were stationed at a fort called Gilhausen. Gilhausen, and for a long time I thought Gilhausen was a city. We were about 90 miles outside of Frankfurt, and I thought Gilhausen was a city. It wasn't until I got out that I learned that Gilhausen was the name of the fort that we were assigned to. Um, but that's where I was, and our job was to get up every day and set up the communication process. Test it out and make sure it's working. So if anything broke out, it would happen. But and we were, like I said, assigned to the headquarters company, which is a breezy kind of company. Well, when I got there, I ran into a guy from Chicago, a guy from Tennessee, where I'm born and grew up on a farm there. And we were hell raisers. And we had women in the barracks, we had alcohol, we had music going. We had just all kinds of shit that you see almost in a sitcom, you know. And they were so frustrated with it, and they thought all this shit didn't happen until Williams got here. You
Ah,
see, it was like our personalities just clicked. You know what I'm saying? They said, all this shit didn't happen until we got here. So the way to stop this shit is to get Williams out of here. And they literally, as punishment, shipped me to an infantry company, where my duties double. You know,
ah.
gave me a bazooka as my field weapon. I had an anti-aircraft goddamn gun on my shoulders as my field weapon. So what
Man.
I did, well, and they made it a point to put me on guard duty or KP, kitchen patrol or something all the time. Um, and watch this. I can do this. I love this kind of stuff. I love this casual stuff. Hey, Newton, I'm doing a podcast right now, David Reed's podcast right now. Can you hear me? Right, I'm gonna call you back, but you're on the air right now. I love it. Take care. I'll call you back. Bye. That was an actor named Newton Mienge. He was just in what's the telefilm they just did about the Lakers?
Let me see here.
Winning Time, that miniseries, Winning Time. Anyway, he's one of the stars of that.
Okay.
Anyway, so they shipped me out to this infantry company, and they start to punish me in every way they can. So I was a big boxing fan. I've always been a big boxing fan, and I would go to the gym, hang out with the boxers. And at one point, I thought, hey, these guys are duty exempt. So I joined the boxing team.
You boxed.
Yeah, I boxed my way through Germany. I joined the boxing team, which made me duty exempt. So they could no longer put me on KP. They could no longer put me on guard duty. I was in training, and my record turned out to be 18-1. So
That's pretty good.
I was a favorite of the colonel
Wow.
because in that world I made the company look good. We had the second best boxing team in USARA. USARA was an acronym for what the hell were we? you something in Germany, the forces in Germany. Um, so yeah,
How
that
long did
was
you box?
I boxed for the full time I was there. I
Wow.
mean, it didn't take me no time to figure out they were fucking with me, and so I joined the team. So for 18 months almost, it was
18
about
and
16 months
1.
actually. Yes, 16 months in Germany. That's what I did in the army. So I never made any rank. I was a private for the entire time I was there. Uh, but I was also, like I said, duty exempt and had an 18 and 1 record. And it was a lot of fun. That was probably one of my most fun things to do in the army. And like you said something earlier about a healthy respect for the military
Yeah.
uh, and I think every young man, even now, should be required to spend a couple of years in the Army. I don't mind the draft. If the draft was still here, it would not be a bad thing, in my opinion, to
I
have young men go in and serve their country that way and get a sense of discipline and order.
the,
That's the one thing that I really got from that time in the Army is a sense of discipline and order, a respect for authority, a big difference between right and wrong, and the racial thing.
yeah.
I mean, I'm sleeping, one of my best little buddies became a little white guy from Kentucky
Yeah.
who still, this is 1966 through 68 now, and he's from Kentucky, and he still didn't really grasp the affront or the insult that calling a black man a boy was. He was still that naive. He grew up in a place that was racially segregated, and he still had those kind of things
Yeah.
going.
He wasn't taught any better.
Huh?
He wasn't taught any better.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And he was not a racist individual. He was just not taught any better. That's my point that I'm getting at, is that you're now 18, 19, 20 years old. And for a lot of those guys, they're living a world that they've never lived. They are mixing
Hmm.
with people they've never even come in contact with before. A Mexican here, an Asian here, a black here, a white here. And a lot of those people were coming together for the very first time.
Yeah.
So that Army experience is a bonding
Hmm.
experience also. And it's an enlightening experience about these things that we believe about another race or another religion or da da da. A lot of those were dispelled for a lot of young
Yeah.
men, which is another good thing.
One of my favorite books is Starship Troopers. And one of its central themes, and it's in the movie as well, is service guarantees citizenship. You don't have the right to vote unless you have taken on a civil service of one form or another. And I think that there is a lot to be said to the notion of it, if you're going to participate in your community, it doesn't necessarily mean putting a gun in your hand and being required to shoot at somebody else. So much as it is, in order to become an adult, you must take on the responsibility of being a servant unto others. And that's the attitude that I was raised with. When 9/11 happened, I was still in high school, and there were 2 or 3 days where I gave serious consideration to enlisting. And it was my dad who actually said, finish school. And I could have gone down. I didn't give it a great deal of consideration, but I did for a few hours there. And I think that there is something to be said for leaving your comfort zone and going into a situation where you have all of self ripped away, and all that's left of you is duty and responsibility and a schedule and expectation. And you're taller as a result. You stand a little taller. You find self-respect that not all of us have when we're find when we're growing up as young people and as teenagers and into adults. I think there's something to be said for a mandatory civil service. It will never happen, but I think a civil mindset that you are more than just yourself is very important. I think it's something that we've lost, that we lose more and more.
I could not agree with you more, and it might happen
Yeah.
again.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
it
true.
might, you gotta remember it did happen. You can't say it never happened
The
because
draft.
it
Yeah, you're
did
right.
happen,
You're right. Yeah.
So there's a very, very distinct possibility that it might happen again. And you mentioned 9/11. There was one moment in my life where, David, I really said, I wish it could be like this all the time. Why can't it be like this all the
Oh,
time?
when we came
Because
together.
there was a pulling together
Hmm.
this, uh, weeks, months, blah, 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 after that incident that was really beautiful to see and look at.
The whole
Where we
world
really,
were Americans. I mean, I
yeah,
know,
exactly.
I can't
Is that
remember. Was
we
it the
are
French who were saying
together.
we are all Americans today? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a beautiful moment. I
Yeah.
looked at it and went, wow, this is a beautiful moment. This is a beautiful time. Why can't we see that and just keep it like this all the time?
All
And
kinds
what the
of,
fuck is wrong with
yeah.
people?
Yeah.
That they can't see it. It's like today, there are people who want to change. And my question will always be, change to what?
What?
To
That's right.
what would you trade democracy for right now?
You have to answer
You
that
want
question.
monarchy? You want communism? You want dictatorship?
Hmm.
You want, I don't even what words like fascism and socialism and shit mean. I really don't. I cannot define for you fascists. But what the hell would you change it to?
Hmm.
Are you people who are clamoring for this change? Don't you realize that, and there's certain things that are such non-brainers that you wonder, how did this happen? How
Right.
does somebody really agree with a man removing some equipment and taking a couple of shots and then being okay with them competing with women? How the hell can you fix your mind to think that that's okay under any circumstances? That's insane. Or
We get
where
sucked
do you
into
get the
these.
notion that a bunch of non-medical men have control over whether or not what a woman can do with her body, depending on, yeah, I think I got solutions for this shit too. I think if you're an anti-abortionist, then you should be required to take care of that woman throughout her pregnancy and adopt a child. Okay? If you really are that adamant about it and think it's so moral, then put your money where your mouth is.
Mm.
You are now legally required to take care of that woman during her pregnancy. And when she delivers that baby is now yours. Okay? Mr. or Mrs. Concerned. All right. Some of this shit's just downright ridiculous. You know?
Yeah, the way that we treat each other, I would agree. I in the short scenes that you had, there was a spark that I just thought was fantastic. One of your first scene is across from Richard Dean Anderson.
You got a bottle of water. Please and thank you.
Are you
Yes,
doing
go ahead,
okay?
David.
Are you doing okay?
Yeah, I'm good. Go ahead.
You have a scene on that runway across from Richard Dean Anderson. Don S.
Okay.
Davis is there, and you say to Rick, Colonel O'Neill, it's a pleasure to meet you. General Hammond has told me nothing but good things. And Rick goes and says, did he, sir? Well, he must have left something out. And you say, such as? And he goes on and on about being so excited about the plane working and everything else. And you say, in all seriousness, if that's okay with you, Colonel, so on and so. And there was this undercurrent of, this guy has totally got a sense of humor. There's a time and place for it, but this dry sense of humor is fantastic. And that undercurrent was played through your entire performance. You would dial it around, but he wasn't just a flat character with no personality. There was a human being underneath this. And I loved your portrayal of the character for the handful of scenes that you were in that show. You brought him to life. And I would imagine it can be frustrating when you only have so much to work with on the page and only a handful of scenes, to bring that out of a character?
You've got much too much time on your hands.
Unfortunately, this is true.
You really dug into. I just found what you just said amazing. Um, and I found what some people say about my work a little amazing. Um, because they say some of the same things you just said, is that there's an underneath thing. And I learned a little bit, I jump all over the place,
You're okay. I'm with you. I'm with you.
about that very thing from doing The Equalizer. Edward Woodward, they used to say you could see him thinking.
Yes.
And somebody said that, and because he was given a great deal of accolades as an actor, especially as this British actor, stage and blah, blah, blah. But I started to watch him after that statement was said, and I get it now. So I think every actor tries to put something underneath. I particularly try to do comedy underneath because I find life to be ironic and funny, period, no matter what job you're in.
Yep.
Doing ride-alongs with cops and understanding they're looking at a dead, mutilated body and they're making jokes. There's always something that you need to do for your job underneath what your outward thing is in order to keep you cool with it. So I'm always trying to find the humor in a character, no matter how serious the character is. That's something I was reaching for. And the fact that you saw that.
Oh, clear as day. Clear as day.
Impressive.
This, I mean,
it's impressive to me and flattering.
Well, you're looking at this character, and Rick is playing a colonel who is a smartass, and you can see just under the hood, you're going, oh man, this guy's a smartass. And he says it in the way that he can, with his authority and with the respect that he carries. And it's a rare, not anyone can do that, Stephen. Not anyone can take a character and have us as an audience go, wow, that I was left with an impression of someone that even though he was there for 5 or 6 minutes, I want him back. I want to find out a little bit more. And Peter DeLuise, God bless him, kept bringing you back.
Hang on a minute, Dave. What am I subject to have to hit if something goes awry? I mean, everything should be smooth as long as I don't touch shit.
But you shouldn't have to do anything. But,
all right.
But just call me. I'm just going to be at the bar.
Okay,
I'm
Dynamite.
just going to be right at the bar.
All right.
Thank you,
man.
Thank you. Appreciate you very much.
Yeah, I got to find out what to do in case something, in case I hit something and we go off.
But,
okay. Dynamite.
But thank God for.
Say that again that you said.
Thank God for Peter DeLuise bringing you back 2 or 3 more times, even if one was only on a video screen. Peter, I think he caught lightning in a bottle when he joined that production team, and I really appreciate him making you a part of the ongoing canon of the show. General Vidrine was responsible for Earth's battle fleet. This ship right here, and those like her, were his responsibility. And so you may not have known this, but this was a thread that was weaving throughout the show, that those were your babies. And you were responsible for making sure that they had what they needed to get off the ground. And, it's folks like DeLuise who were interested in the canon of the show and in the continuity, because only so many, even in the Air Force, only so many people would have been aware of this program. So it made sense to bring familiar faces back, because those were the people who would have recognized the importance of the program and would have continued to stay involved.
It is so cool when a storyline is thought through like that, and when you have an audience that can see it, knows it, and follows that storyline. It makes everything. It makes me understand fans more, because they're deep into the story. 9 times out of 10 for a guest star or recurring, it's you go in and do your job. Our main concern is, can I memorize these lines and impress people with a couple of moves so I can maybe get hired again by them. we don't think about the overall picture. One of the things that disappoints me about characters that I've done is that it's the incompletion of the character. Is I don't get to live the history of the character a lot. When I can see stuff, I go, wow, this guy came from this band and went through this and blah, blah, blah. I wonder what would happen if blah, 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 and if this continues. It's like Vidrine, a great deal of my characters have had that.
You get to embody them for a little bit of time, and then you have to let them go. And it's like,
Yeah,
who was that person?
Mr. X in the X-Files was one of the most disappointing things I've ever done. In terms of you don't know still who this man was, who he worked for. Was he a good guy or a bad guy? Was he the boss or the cigarette smoking man the boss? There was so much. He was so rich and so much more to learn about him. It was disappointing as an actor, heartbreaking as an actor to not have been able to reveal that to an audience. Because like when I played him, one of the things I said about X is I tried not to give it anything, except for the few, anger flare-ups or that I had, the intensity. Just say the words I used to say about the character. I want this character to be as ambiguous as I can possibly make him. Let the audience figure out who he was and a whole bunch of other stuff. And they never wrote it, they never got a chance to write it. Yellowstone was another character like that.
I'm looking forward to watching
this
Yellowstone.
Brief thing I did in Yellowstone, I go, why the fuck was he there? What was Cowboy about? We never learned anything about Cowboy except that he knew when to get out. He knew when he was surrounded by crazy. You're familiar with what I'm talking about, right?
My parents love the show. I am. It is a few shows down on my list, but I am really looking forward to seeing you in it.
Oh, you got to watch that show.
I've heard it's great. They
one of the better things that was ever on the air.
Yeah.
And it's happening. It's in real time, actually.
Yeah.
That was the fascinating thing I'm finding. That show was actually in real time.
Wow.
Even right now, as you and I are speaking, there are entities trying to take away. There are people who own what looks like a whole state, but there are also entities who are trying to take that away from them. Land that has been in the family for generations and generations. But there's corporate concerns that want to make golf courses and airports and malls and parking lots and shit out of it.
I've heard it's very real.
Yes, so it's very real even right now.
I've got some fan.
Yeah, that incompleteness of characters is something that actors don't like. We want to flesh it all out.
Yeah, I think when you really get a chance to sit down and meditate on one and explore it is a, like you say, it's a blessing. I've got some fan questions for you if you have a little bit more time with me.
Oh, hell yeah.
Okay. Stephen,
another thing I like about Vidrine is the uniform.
You look great in an Air Force uniform.
Great looking uniform, baby.
Those.
I felt like Top Gun. I felt like I was in Top Gun.
Those four-star epaulets, they don't wear you. You wear them, sir.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. Let's see what this fan has to ask.
Jacob wants to know, did you get to meet any of the music icons that were in the Blues Brothers while you worked there?
Oh, yes. Absolutely. I mean, first of all, I knew John Belushi before we ever did the movie. In Chicago, I lived 3 blocks from Second City.
Oh, man.
Okay? So we drank at the same bar.
Yeah.
A little bar called Old Town Ale House. And all the people from Second City, those who were drinkers and bargoers, would come to this little bar. So yeah. And it was an absolute, especially the entire, see, I hit the damn thing.
You're good. We're good.
Right. Especially the band.
Yeah.
I got to hang out with the band and John Candy, but the band itself.
John Candy.
We'd hang out. So yeah, I got to meet him. I did meet real briefly James and Aretha. That was, hello and howdy, I'm Stephen, with no intricate conversation. But yeah, that movie was like awesome because we'd get celebrities visiting celebrities. Muhammad Ali used to love to come to the set. You know, it was insane. People don't even, I bet you they would have no recollection, but they had to keep me and Carrie Fisher away from each other. So
Okay, please
we,
tell me
I was talking
more.
about
Tell
that,
me more
Carla.
right now.
We laughed. We laughed. There was something humorous. We found each other funny somehow. And it was during a time period, the drugs abounded.
Yeah,
So there was some good marijuana around.
yeah. Carrie went through
So it was just laughter. It's like, you two don't know, keep them two apart. It's just, a couple of times when she was on set,
Uh, she
it was like a
was a
fun thing,
princess.
a fun thing. Um,
Wow.
yeah, it was, and for me, it was amazing because it was just so new. I'd never been around that many celebrities on a daily basis.
I would have been
You know,
so sore from pinching myself.
yeah, there was always somebody that showed up, and it was a very interesting time to learn the truth. Also, the tragedy of John, and
Yeah,
you look at the picture sometimes, and a lot of negative is what you see.
yeah,
But I saw two total professionals, him and Aykroyd.
yeah.
I saw just everybody, but just in particular, I saw two total professionals doing their job from different aspects. John worked as
Yeah.
hard and as diligently as he played. You
Wow.
know what I'm saying? This was the consummate professional. When somebody said action, blam, that's what they say about me. They say I'm wild and crazy and gregarious and blah, blah, blah. But when the director says action, I'm prepared, I'm ready, I get in there and do my job. I found that with John and Dan. It was an interesting thing to watch, you know. And
Professionals, they
just
can strike the
how
balance.
crazy person turn it back, turn on
Wow.
the professionalism, bam, do what he's supposed to do. Uh, so yeah, that everyday trip
Wow.
of all the celebrities was cool.
Marcia says, Stephen, I'm putting a coin in the Wayback Machine. One of your first film roles was as Jimmy in the iconic film Cooley High. I grew up in a New York City housing project, and I'm seasoned enough to remember when it first came out. We all saw it and talked about it so much. Can you tell us something you may remember about being part of Cooley High? Marcia and I go way back. She's an incredible human being. So,
Well, and that's, I think that was my second. I forget what came first, Cooley High or Blues Brothers. I think Cooley High came first. Yeah, it had to come first. Um, First of all, Jimmy Lee was the character,
Cooley High.
and he was a real person.
Okay.
Michael Schultz used a lot of real people in that movie itself. The
Okay.
two gangsters, Stone and forget the other name, were real gangsters in Cabrini Green. But Jimmy Lee was a real person, and I got to meet his parents. And he was simply just this guy, this hustler, you know? I mean, he hustled anything. He was a jack of all trades, a con man, you know? And it was interesting meeting his parents. To this day, congratulations to Glenn Turman, who just got his star on the Walk of Fame. Him and Lawrence Hilton Jacobs are good buddies to this very day.
Wow.
I mean, we're good friends. I mean, we socialize as much as possible, especially on the special occasions. Larry does a wonderful thing, Lawrence Hilton Jacobs. He does a dinner every year. He can cook, and his family, all the men, learn how to cook. He's from the island, some damn where. Trinidad is his roots. It's one of those places, not necessarily it. But for all the people who don't have family here, the actors that don't have family in LA or don't want to go
Yeah.
home, every year Larry gives us Thanksgiving dinner.
Ah,
You
good.
know?
A
So
Friendsgiving.
yeah, Jackie Taylor. I don't know if she remembers Jackie Taylor. She was the one who gave the party in the movie, and Krasinski got knocked over and blah blah blah. She's a wonderful actress who now has a street named after her in Chicago. She has a company called the Black Ensemble Theater. Got three theaters, a 299 seater, a 300 seat seater, the smaller one, a 100 seater. Again, a street named after her, etc.
Hmm.
Doing well. One of the gangsters from that movie, I forget which was which, but the darker skin, he still works with Jackie today in all of her theatrical projects. You know, he got out of the gang, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. He might be in those gangs forever. They just let him go off and do something else. I don't know how that works. But he still works with her to this day. You know, they work together.
There are people who fall into our orbits who get tangled up in our gravity, who just become a part of us through the rest of our lives. These people that you're referring to, you know, that I mean, you can always count on them for Thanksgiving, or sooner or later they're going to give you a call and, you know, ask you how you're doing. I'm 42 now. I'm always surprised at the people who continually stay in my orbit and are a part of my life that I didn't necessarily expect. I may have worked with them on a project for something, and here they are. They're still with me.
Yeah.
And we've been talking a lot about blessings. I mean, I consider that one of the greatest of all, as unexpected friends.
Cooley High is probably the movie that I continue to have the most contact with, the most cast. I mean, Garrett Morris, we still see from time to time, you know, like I said, Larry and Glenn, Jackie Taylor. It's interesting. Michael Schultz, he directed me in a couple of episodes of Jump Street. So it was like cool, man. One of the guys you did, you know, your director from one of the most iconic movies ends up, you know, directing you in one of an iconic TV series. So yeah, it is, and that's very special. It is very special that those people are still there, and they are there for a reason. You know, those are special people. They play a special role in your life. You just don't know what that is until it happens.
That's right.
But you know when it happens, why they were there.
That's right.
You
And
know?
you're never promised tomorrow, and neither
Right.
are they.
And for a lot of us, it's already happened.
Yeah.
You know, some incident
Yeah.
that has been life affirming, life saving, life giving. You know, that there's been a need that was fulfilled at the time it needed fulfilling.
In MacGyver, Peace Rider says, I've got a couple more for you, and then I'm going to let you go. In MacGyver, you played an old friend with explosives expertise and a great sense of humor in this character. Peace Rider says, do you remember anything about your time on MacGyver? Is this an explosives expert?
I remember most is that was so ripe, and I thought it was going to happen. I actually put it in the air. There was actually something said about it, of me becoming a part of the cast. I thought this is going to be a great matchup. That Richard and I are now going to be, you know, it's going to be a team now. It's going to become a buddy, you know, a buddy flick. You know, I really thought that was going to happen. And then I saw the line. It's a vac! Boom! I said, damn.
Oh, no!
There goes that dream, you know. But I really thought that was going to happen because I thought we made a great team. I had
Thanks,
a damn
Stephen.
good
It's been
time
great.
playing
You're
that.
done. You're done. You can, yeah. Exit stage
Richard
left.
is Richard is such a class act.
Yeah.
He was absolutely, and I love that. That's another thing I've loved about that era, that time. I've met some classy people, man. And it's good to meet the real people instead of listening to the rumors. You know, because with every set back then, there was always some rumor about that person. They're an asshole, they're a this, they're a that, you know, that's something you were warned about. And to a man and woman, they've all been wrong. Anything negative ever said about any people has been wrong relative to my experience with them, you know. So yeah, I loved playing with Richard. And again, like I said, I thought we were going to be, you know, a buddy. Thought it was going to now be a buddy movie. Didn't turn out that way. Matter of fact, who was it? It was me and Richard Lawson. We're going to play. There was some connection between me and Richard Lawson and Richard Dean Anderson too. And I forget what it was. Some show, I don't know.
Well,
but yeah, that was, you know, it was just fun. I've had fun almost with every show I've ever done. I can't think of a show that in the end, I didn't like doing. You
That's,
know,
oh man,
I
Stephen, that's
I
a
never had
huge
any
blessing.
miserable. People talk about their
Yeah,
miserable experiences on the show.
yeah.
I've never had one of those.
You go in, and I'm talking about you. I'm not talking about general
Mhm.
you. I've watched you in a couple of interviews getting ready for this. You go in ready to have a good time. And when you go in with that attitude, a good time finds you. And people who don't have that mindset get repelled by that energy like scurrying rats. Or they keep themselves to themselves. And it's like, as far as I'm concerned, good, because the hours are long, they're hard, they're tedious. Okay, we're going to hurry up and now we get to wait. We're going to have a damn good time doing it while we can do it because we are blessed to be here. We're not in an assembly line. We are kind of in an assembly line, but we're in the production phase of an assembly line. But we're going to have a good time. And you carry that with you into the character, and you carry that with you into the show, and it's why you've been as successful as you have, sir. That and you're kind of a good actor.
That's you again. I say you have insight into me that is surprising. It's a little bit disturbing.
Well, I have a friend
It's a
who
little
is
bit
the
disturbing, man, that you know that much about my inner workings
here's
because
the
I
thing.
insist on
I
having a good time
I
when I
have
go to. I do
that's
insist on
it.
that. Like you say, he's loud, he's gregarious. I've been asked to leave a lot of places because I was having too good of a time while everybody else was working.
That's their loss.
Yeah,
Is the work
it
getting
makes no
done?
sense to make no sense to go to work and be miserable.
If the
It's
work
just
is
not
not
true.
getting done, that's one thing. If the work is getting done, loosen up. And that's how Peter DeLuise, the guy who has spoken of you,
Now,
who has helped me learn a little bit more about you, has said that. The last thought that I want to leave you with is one that William Aarons has submitted. He says he was surprised to learn about your rank of private because he always saw you as a perfect model of an officer in SG-1 and thought you actually were one. And there is, I think that is a great compliment because you've taken the lessons that you have learned in life and you have folded them into the various characters that you have woven along the way. And it's been a privilege to share so many of your stories with you here today, sir, and making them a part of my archive, but also getting a little bit into what made this general tick. Even though we saw him really, really briefly, you established a guy who was not just a two-dimensional figure delivering exposition in 3 episodes. You delivered someone that fans looked up to and admired. And it means so much that you spent so much of your afternoon with me here today.
hey, uh, I'm humbled. I'm humbled. We like to say, that's my job, I'm doing my job. But thank you. And thank all the fans out there. Without, I'm doing a little bit, just leave you kind of with this. I'm doing a little bit of these Comic-Cons now because I have been a part of 2 of the best genres um, of entertainment, and that's horror, film, and sci-fi. You know, and the fans always say, there's a line they use, thank you for coming. Glad you could get here this weekend, Mr. Williams, blah, blah. And I always marvel at that because I'm thinking, you are the reason. I should thank you. You are the reason I'm here. I have no reason to be in Michigan this weekend other than, I'm here so I want to thank all the fans for being fans, for watching, for investing in the things that I have invested time in, for investing your time um, to watch and listen to what we have created as actors, directors, writers, producers, etc. Thank you for watching. Um, and we certainly appreciate that you like it. That you indicate that you like it. So it kind of means we've done our jobs.
And
Uh,
you
So thank you right back.
absolutely, yeah.
I'm happy to.
I have reached out to people who are like, no, I don't want to do the show. You know, that's the part of my life that's over. So people who are willing to come on and to share, it means the world to
Oh,
me. So, because you don't have
who?
to. You don't have to
Right.
go to Michigan
Who?
and visit fans. You really don't have to do it. But the fact that you recognize um, where your success continues to stem from. If there's no one watching, what have you got?
You got nothing.
You got
You got
nothing.
absolutely. You got nothing. There's no reason to do it. It's just an amazing. And we get the best job on the planet.
Yeah.
Let me just put it that way.
You get to
I think we
entertain.
got, I couldn't have asked for a better job.
Yeah. You get to entertain and you get to lie a little bit.
And
So,
and we get to continue our immortality.
yeah,
I
that's
like
true.
the young people in my world.
Yeah.
It's like, granddad is immortal now. You know,
Yeah.
I'm on celluloid.
Yeah.
I've been recorded, a visual image,
Yeah.
Jump Street, Stargate,
Yeah.
uh, X-Files, blah, blah, blah. Those things 50, 60 years from now
They'll
will be
still be
shown
around.
somewhere,
That's right.
you know. They'll be there. So in a sense, I'm immortal. And
In
that's
many
and that's a
ways.
great feeling.
And
It's a
not
good
for
feeling.
just for villains, but for some darn good guys too.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Stephen, thank you
David,
very
thank you.
much.
Thank you for having me on. And again, all the fans out there, the viewers, thank you from the bottom, middle, top of my heart.
Yeah, we
Thanks.
got 60 people watching right now, so it means a lot to me to have you. I'm going to go ahead and wrap up the show on this end. You don't have to push anything, and
Yeah, I can just close my top and I'll be good to go.
that's right. I
All
appreciate your
right.
time.
Much love. Stay healthy, man.
Thank you, sir.
Right.
Stephen Williams, everyone, General Vidrine in Stargate SG-1. I shared more than I expected to today. I don't often share pieces of myself, but when you have a person who comes along who is so willing to be open and you perceive a certain reception of a person, and Stephen was definitely that. I have wanted to have him on for quite some time, and that was just special across the board. I really want to thank everyone who took time to submit questions today. Jacob, Marcia, Lockwatcher, Raj, Brian O'Neill Singleton, Matt T, Kevin, Homo Erpel, William Aarons, and Peace Rider. I wasn't able to get to all of them. I was way too selfish with them, took up a lot of time. But I hope you guys enjoyed the getting to know Stephen and all of his wonderful stories. You're watching Dial the Gate, the Stargate Oral History Project. If you enjoy Stargate and you want to see more content like this, please click the like button. It does make a difference with the show and will continue to help us grow. Please also consider sharing the show with a Stargate friend or a 21 Jump Street friend. And if you want to get notified about future episodes, click the subscribe button. And clips from this live stream will be released over the course of the next few weeks on both the Dial the Gates and gateworld.net YouTube channels. I have a number of guests heading your way fairly soon here. Ian Buchanan, whom I know best from Twin Peaks, along with Don S. Davis. He played first in Stargate SG-1 in Unnatural Selection. We're going to be bringing him on fairly soon here. Clayton Landy, Dylan Everett in Stargate Atlantis, Siege Parts 2 and 3. Kira Clavel had to step away. She's going to be rescheduled for later this year. Amaterasu in Stargate SG-1. And I've got a few more in the hopper as well, including an episode with German Stargate fans that I've got in my back pocket that's going to be heading your way really soon here. I appreciate you tuning in. Thanks so much to my mod team. These people really went above and beyond this episode. Anthony, Jeremy, Kevin, Lockwatcher, Marcia, Raj, and Jacob. You guys are the best. Couldn't do the show without you. My production team, Anthony Rowling, Kevin Weaver, Linda Gategaber-Fury, Frederick Marcoux over at Concepts Web, keeping dialthegate.com going. Jacob Olesh, finally got it right, Jacob. I've been practicing it in the shower. You've really stepped up lately, and it's been a pleasure to have you as part of the team, basically a pseudo-producer at this point. That's what I have for you here. Wormhole Extremists, we had our episode, our Stargate Atlantis debut of Rising earlier today. And if you want to go and watch the pilot with us, that's available now at our sister channel. The link is below for Wormhole Extremists. And we've got a lot more heading your way. My name is David Reed for Dial the Gate. I appreciate you tuning in, and I'll see you on the other side.